All right, humans, gather around because we're about to dive into the biological lottery winners of 2025. While you're over there struggling to remember where you put your keys, some carry rare genetic variants that grant superhuman traits. Researchers have identified mutations in genes like LRP5 and TAS2R38 that explain how these individuals function differently. From unbreakable bones to hypercolor vision, these 10 mutations will reshape your view of what our bodies can do. Let's start with the people who treat car crashes like minor inconveniences. The titanium skeleton gene. Number 10, the titanium skeleton gene. Picture this: Sarah Martinez walks away from a head-on collision that turns her Honda into modern art. The paramedics are preparing body bags. The fire department is using the jaws of life to extract what they assume are remains. Sarah climbs out through the sunroof asking if anyone has a phone charger. Zero fractures, not even a hairline crack. The ER doctors run her through every scanner in the building thinking their equipment is broken. Her bones show up on x-rays like she swallowed a construction site. Most of us are walking around with skeletons made of glorified bird bones. You stub your toe wrong and you're Googling whether limping counts as a disability. You fall off a stepladder and suddenly you're intimately familiar with your local orthopedic surgeon's payment plans. Your bones are basically fancy calcium chalk pretending to be structural support. But Sarah and around 1 in 10 million carry the high bone density LRP5 variant that transforms their skeletons into something approaching science fiction. These people don't break bones, bones break around them. Bone mineral density in these individuals measures up to 8 times the norm, verified by dual-energy X-ray absorptiometry. Their skeletons are built like they're expecting to wrestle concrete and win. Living with this mutation means standard chairs can sag under their weight. Manufacturers note unusual wear patterns. Your bed frame has developed trust issues and started seeing a therapist. You don't sit on things so much as you dominate them into submission through sheer bone density. Their bone density is so high medical scanners require higher radiation settings to image their bones. The radiation bounces off your bones like light off a mirror. Dental x-rays require industrial equipment and a prayer to whatever gods govern medical imaging. The LRP5 gene normally regulates bone formation like a middle manager who's afraid to make decisions. In most people it says, hey, maybe we should build some bone today, I guess, if that's okay with everyone. But in these genetic anomalies, the LRP5 gene took a leadership seminar, and now it's screaming, more bone, more density, we're building a fortress. The mutation causes osteoblasts to work overtime like they're being paid in overtime bonuses and threats. Your bone mineral density readings confuse doctors who have spent decades studying osteoporosis. They run the tests 3 times thinking the machine is having an existential crisis. According to 2025 research, these people have negative risk for bone loss. Scientists aren't even sure that's mathematically possible, but here we are. Their bones get denser with age while the rest of us are stockpiling calcium supplements and praying gravity stays gentle. You probably use your shins as bottle openers not because you're showing off, but because it's genuinely easier than finding an actual bottle opener. Your friends watch in horror as you casually crack open beverages using body parts that would shatter if normal people tried it. You've become a human Swiss Army knife, except every tool is made of reinforced bone. But this genetic jackpot comes with downsides that nobody warns you about in the superhero movies. Swimming pools treat you like a human anchor. You sink faster than bad stock picks. Beach vacations become exercises in competitive drowning because your bones have the buoyancy of concrete blocks. Public pools require you to wear floaties designed for small boats. Airplane seats weren't designed for people whose skeletons weigh as much as carry-on luggage. You break weight limits on things that shouldn't have weight limits. Trampolines bounce everyone else into the air while you punch holes through them like a bone-powered meteor. Children's playground equipment files insurance claims just thinking about you. Your skeleton is so dense that MRI machines struggle to penetrate deep enough to see your soft tissues. Medical procedures require equipment upgrades and hazard pay for technicians. Emergency rooms keep you on speed dial not because you get injured, but because you accidentally injure their diagnostic equipment just by existing near it. Dating becomes complicated when your bone density shows up on medical records like you're part cyborg. Potential partners read your DEXA scan results and wonder if they're dating a human or a walking architectural support beam. Your Tinder profile should probably include a disclaimer about structural damage to furniture. The mutation affects your entire skeletal system with the enthusiasm of an overachieving construction crew. Your skull is thick enough to stop small caliber thoughts from penetrating. Your ribcage protects your organs like they're state secrets. Your spine has the structural integrity of a skyscraper designed by engineers who were really angry at gravity. 2025 medical research shows these people confuse osteoporosis specialists who built entire careers around bone loss. They're like meteorologists who moved to a place where weather decided to stop existing. These genetic anomalies represent the opposite of everything doctors learned in medical school about skeletal fragility. You walk through life leaving subtle dents in things you lean against. Walls develop structural stress where you've rested your superhuman skeleton. Your couch has a permanent impression shaped like someone who weighs twice what they appear to weigh. Hotel beds file complaints about unusually dense guests who compress their springs into geometric impossibilities. Friends joke that you're secretly made of titanium, but the truth is more impressive. Titanium has nothing on genetically modified bone density that makes your skeleton denser than most metals. You're not just unbreakable, you're actively breaking the things around you through casual contact. Emergency responders have started keeping your contact information for situations requiring human battering rams. Police departments consider recruiting you for door-breaching operations. Construction crews eye you speculatively during demolition projects, wondering if you're available for freelance structural damage. But the most mind-bending part is how normal you look walking around with bones that could survive being used as building materials. Nobody expects the person ordering coffee ahead of them to have a skeleton dense enough to anchor ships. You're camouflaged as a regular human while carrying around a frame that belongs in engineering textbooks. These bone-dense humans are basically real-life Captain America's minus the shield and the patriotic responsibility, but with all the structural invincibility that makes normal people feel like they're made of wet cardboard and wishful thinking. But if you think having unbreakable bones sounds impressive, wait until you meet the people whose eyes can perceive an entire spectrum of reality that's completely invisible to everyone else. The Million-Color Vision Upgrade. Number 9. The Million-Color Vision Upgrade. Meet Jessica, who stands in Home Depot explaining to her husband that the wall paint display contains 17 distinct shades of what he insists on calling white. Tetrachromacy possess a fourth cone allowing detection of tens of millions more hues, verified in clinical color matching tests. Her husband stares at paint chips that look identical to him, while Jessica experiences an emotional breakdown over the subtle differences between cream and off-white that apparently scream different stories about light reflection and molecular composition. Most humans stumble through life seeing roughly 10 million colors, thinking they're getting the full visual experience. Your eyes pick up red, green, and blue through 3 types of cone cells, and your brain mixes those signals into what you assume represents reality. You look at a sunset and think you're seeing everything there is to see. You browse Instagram and believe those filtered photos capture the actual colors of the moment. You walk through art museums nodding appreciatively at paintings, while experiencing maybe 1% of what the artist actually created. Jessica and others with tetrachromacy possess a fourth cone cell that functions like a secret color channel broadcasting content nobody else can receive. This genetic cheat code adds an extra dimension to vision that transforms the world into something resembling what normal people might see after upgrading from black and white television to 4K displays. These people process over 100 million colors, while the rest of us are basically stumbling around with budget eyeball software that maxes out at discount rainbow settings. Tetrachromacy results from genetic mutations affecting the opsin genes located on the X chromosome. Women inherit 2 X chromosomes, which means they can receive different versions of these color-processing genes, creating the perfect biological conditions for developing that fourth cone type. The mutation typically produces cones most sensitive to orange spectrum wavelengths, giving tetrachromates access to color combinations that exist in the gap between what normal human vision can distinguish. 2025 research shows up to 2% of women express functional tetrachromacy, but only a fraction actually manifest fourth-dimensional color vision. The genetic lottery requires perfect alignment between cone development, brain processing power, and neural wiring capable of handling the extra visual information. Most people with the mutation never realize they possess superhuman color detection, because testing requires specialized equipment found only in university research centers. Many struggle choosing paint colors or matching fabrics because others can't see the extra dimensions of hue they perceive. Jessica spends 3 hours in paint departments trying to explain to sales associates why their uniform beige display actually contains a spectrum ranging from sad oatmeal to aggressive sand, with undertones that shift depending on lighting conditions. She points out color variations in supposedly matching fabric samples that make store employees question their career choices and wonder if their customer might be experiencing some form of artistic psychosis. Home improvement projects turn into existential crises when tetrachromates try to coordinate colors that look perfectly matched to everyone else but clash violently in fourth-dimensional color space. Friends offer decorating advice while tetrachromates see color combinations that hurt their souls in ways normal humans cannot comprehend. Interior design becomes less about aesthetic preference and more about avoiding color relationships that feel like visual fingernails on chalkboards. Their Instagram posts confuse followers who see ordinary photos, while tetrachromats carefully curate images capturing color subtleties that disappear when viewed through normal human vision. They post sunset photos that look unremarkable to everyone else while containing color gradients that would break normal brains if they could actually perceive them. Art photography becomes an exercise in documenting visual experiences that cannot be shared with 97% of the human population. The genetic mechanism behind tetrachromacy involves mutations in the OPN1LW and OPN1MW genes, which normally produce light-sensing proteins in cone cells. When women inherit different versions of these genes on each X chromosome, their retinas sometimes develop two distinct types of long wavelength or medium wavelength cones instead of the standard single version. This genetic accident creates the biological foundation for perceiving color dimensions that evolution never intended most humans to access. Tests use genetic screening of opsin genes plus color matching experiments under calibrated lighting. Online tests claiming to diagnose tetrachromacy are basically entertainment because detecting fourth-dimensional color vision requires hardware capable of displaying colors beyond standard monitor capabilities. Real testing involves genetic analysis combined with complex visual assessments using calibrated light sources and expensive spectrometers. Tetrachromats describe living in a world where everyone else appears to suffer from selective color blindness. They watch normal humans confidently match colors that look completely different in tetrachromatic vision. They experience frustration similar to what colorblind people feel, but in reverse, watching a majority population miss obvious color distinctions that seem fundamental to visual reality. The mutation affects daily life in ways that sound ridiculous to people with standard vision. Tetrachromats can distinguish between identical-looking lipstick shades by detecting undertone variations invisible to normal color perception. They spot perfectly camouflaged animals by seeing color contrasts that bypass standard human detection abilities. They navigate by recognizing subtle environmental color shifts that provide navigation information unavailable to trichromatic vision. Art appreciation becomes intensely personal when tetrachromats experience paintings containing color relationships that exist only in fourth-dimensional space. They see artistic techniques and color choices that normal viewers cannot detect even when pointed out directly. Museums become overwhelming sensory experiences where tetrachromats process visual information at levels approaching artistic overdose. The social isolation aspect of tetrachromacy creates unique psychological challenges when individuals cannot share their visual experiences with others. They describe colors that sound made up to friends and family members who have no framework for understanding fourth-dimensional color perception. Conversations about visual experiences become exercises in translation, attempting to describe impossible colors using vocabulary designed for three-dimensional color space. Dating becomes complicated when potential partners cannot see or appreciate the visual world that defines much of a tetrachromat's daily experience. Romantic moments involving sunsets or artistic experiences become one-sided when tetrachromats try to share visual beauty that remains invisible to their companions. They learn to edit their descriptions of visual experiences to avoid sounding like they suffer from some form of color-related mental illness. The mutation represents an evolutionary preview of enhanced human sensory capabilities that might become more common in future generations. Scientists study tetrachromats to understand how visual processing might continue evolving and what advantages fourth-dimensional color vision might provide for survival and environmental awareness. These people experience sunsets like the rest of us experience fireworks, complete with colors that explode across dimensions normal human vision cannot access, while we stand there seeing basic rainbow settings and thinking we caught the full spectacular show. But if you think seeing impossible colors sounds impressive, wait until you meet the people who have figured out how to function perfectly on a fraction of the sleep everyone else requires. The 4-hour sleep hackers. Number 8. The 4-hour sleep hackers. David Chen has been running on 4 hours of sleep every night for 37 years. Not because he suffers from insomnia or drinks 17 cups of coffee or takes questionable supplements advertised by fitness influencers. He springs out of bed at 4 a.m. with the energy of someone who just won the lottery combined with someone who accidentally discovered the meaning of life. By 6 a.m. he has completed a full workout, answered all his emails, organized his closet by color and seasonal appropriateness, and started researching investment opportunities in emerging cryptocurrency markets. His friends assume he operates on some combination of methamphetamines and pure spite, but David just carries a genetic mutation that makes sleep seem like an inefficient use of biological resources. Normal humans require 8 hours of unconsciousness to function like barely competent versions of themselves. You hit snooze 17 times, negotiate with your alarm clock, and eventually drag yourself out of bed like you are emerging from a coma caused by excessive contact with gravity. You stumble to the coffee machine mumbling apologies to furniture you bump into, while your brain slowly boots up like a computer from 1987. The first 3 hours of your day involve gradually remembering who you are and what responsibilities you agreed to handle before you can attempt basic human tasks like forming complete sentences or operating kitchen appliances without causing property damage. David and roughly less than 1% of the population, according to 2025 research data, carry mutations in genes like DEC2-ADRB1 or SIK3 that essentially reprogram their sleep requirements down to levels that make normal humans question the fairness of genetic distribution. A DEC2 mutation lets carriers function on 4 hours of sleep with no cognitive deficits, confirmed in controlled sleep study trials. Their DNA looked at the standard 8-hour sleep requirement and said we can optimize this process and eliminate the inefficient parts. People with the DEC2 mutation average only 6.25 hours of sleep per night, while normal humans require 8.06 hours, according to research conducted since the gene was discovered in 2009. The mutated DEC2 gene produces proteins that regulate circadian rhythms more efficiently than standard human sleep software. Scientists identified additional mutations in the ADRB1 gene in 2019, which creates beta-1 adrenergic receptors that degrade faster than normal versions, suggesting they function differently and require less recovery time between sleep cycles. The SIK3N783Y mutation represents another genetic pathway that reduces sleep duration while maintaining sleep quality. This mutation decreases kinase activity and triggers changes in protein kinase A and mitogen-activated protein kinase systems that regulate sleep at synaptic sites throughout the brain. The mutation essentially rewires neural networks responsible for sleep regulation, making them more efficient at processing restoration during shortened sleep periods. David accomplishes more before 9 a.m. than most people manage during entire weeks. While normal humans are still negotiating with their subconscious about whether getting out of bed counts as exercise, David has already meal prepped for the next 3 days, researched home improvement projects he might tackle over the weekend, and started learning a new language through online tutorials. He operates with the productivity levels of someone who discovered how to add extra hours to every day, except instead of time manipulation, he just needs less unconscious recovery time. His friends think he maintains his energy through pharmaceutical assistance or supernatural intervention. They watch him stay alert and focused during late evening activities, then show up the next morning looking refreshed and ready to tackle complex projects while they shuffle around like zombies who forgot how to human properly. Short sleepers report normal mood, memory, and reaction times in clinical tests. In lab studies, they score normally on memory and concentration tests after fewer hours of sleep. David reorganizes his entire house during time periods when normal humans are unconscious and dreaming about forgetting to wear pants to important meetings. He completes home improvement projects that require planning and physical labor, while others hit snooze and negotiate with their alarm clocks about whether 5 more minutes will solve their fundamental sleep debt problems. His living space looks like someone with unlimited time and energy tackled every organizational challenge simultaneously, because essentially that describes his daily reality. The genetic mutations affect how the brain processes sleep stages and recovery cycles. Normal humans spend roughly 30% of sleep time in deep sleep phases, where the brain repairs cellular damage, consolidates memories, and maintains cognitive function. Short sleepers with these mutations achieve equivalent restoration in significantly less time because their neural networks process these functions more efficiently during compressed sleep windows. Research shows these genetic variants trigger substantial changes in synaptic activity and neurotransmitter regulation. The mutations alter how neurons communicate during sleep cycles, allowing the brain to complete necessary maintenance and restoration processes in fewer hours. Scientists study these individuals to understand what constitutes essential sleep functions versus biological inefficiencies that could potentially be optimized in normal human sleep patterns. Short sleepers tend to be more optimistic, energetic, and better at multitasking, according to research data. They demonstrate higher pain thresholds, do not suffer from jet lag, and some researchers believe they may live longer due to having access to more wakeful hours for physical activity and life engagement. Their brains seem to extract maximum benefit from minimum sleep investment, creating biological advantages that extend beyond simple time management. The mutations represent evolutionary adaptations that could provide survival advantages in environments requiring extended periods of alertness or productivity. Individuals who need less sleep have more time available for resource acquisition, social interaction, and environmental monitoring. These genetic variants might become more common in future generations, as modern life increasingly rewards people who can function effectively on limited rest. Testing for these mutations requires genetic analysis because the traits cannot be diagnosed through sleep studies alone. Many people who struggle with sleep assume they suffer from insomnia when they might actually carry genetic variants that reduce their sleep requirements. Proper identification helps distinguish between sleep disorders that require medical intervention and genetic adaptations that represent normal variations in human sleep biology. These people are living life with 20% more hours than everyone else gets to experience, turning sleep from a biological necessity into an occasional biological suggestion, while the rest of us remain slaves to unconsciousness and recovery cycles that consume 1/3 of our available lifetime. But if you think having extra hours sounds impressive, wait until you meet people whose tongues function like sophisticated chemical detection systems that can analyze molecular compositions in everything they encounter. The molecular taste detectives. Number 7, the molecular taste detectives. Maria Rodriguez can tell you which city your tap water came from just by taking a sip. She identifies the mineral content, the chlorine treatment methods, and whether the pipes are copper or PVC based on flavor profiles that normal humans cannot detect. She walks through grocery stores touching vegetables and announcing which ones are stressed from poor growing conditions, transportation trauma, or inadequate storage. Her tongue functions like a biological spectrometer that analyzes chemical compositions, while everyone else just tastes water and broccoli, like their taste buds are operating on basic cable programming. Food screams chemical information at these people with the intensity of emergency broadcast systems. Every meal becomes a sensory assault where flavors contain detailed molecular reports about ingredients, processing methods, and storage conditions. They bite into an apple and immediately know the soil pH levels, the pesticide applications, and whether the fruit was picked too early, then artificially ripened in storage facilities. Normal humans taste apple flavor, while supertasters experience comprehensive agricultural reports delivered through taste receptor networks operating at maximum sensitivity settings. The TAS2R38 gene creates the biological foundation for this enhanced flavor detection system. This genetic variant affects roughly 25% of the population according to 2025 research, but creates wildly different levels of taste intensity among individuals who carry the mutation. The gene produces proteins that bind to bitter compounds with the enthusiasm of security guards who take their jobs too seriously. People with 2 copies of the PAV variant experience bitter flavors with amplified intensity that makes normal taste experiences seem like someone turned down the volume on reality. Supertasters have up to 30% more fungiform papillae on their tongues and elevated PTC bitterness perception in lab assays. Their tongues look like biological circuit boards covered in extrasensory equipment designed to detect molecular compositions that escape standard human taste detection. Each additional taste bud functions like installing extra security cameras that monitor chemical information flowing through their mouths during every eating experience. The genetic lottery that created these molecular taste detectives involves mutations affecting multiple taste receptor genes beyond just TAS2R38. Additional genetic variants influence sweet, sour, and umami detection, creating individuals whose tongues process flavor information like sophisticated analytical laboratories. Their taste receptors bind to chemical compounds with precision that makes normal human taste detection look like trying to identify music through soundproof walls. 2025 research shows supertasters vary tremendously in intensity levels, with some individuals experiencing mild enhancement, while others live with taste sensitivity that approaches sensory overload during normal meals. The most extreme cases can identify individual spice components in complex dishes, detect artificial flavoring added to natural ingredients, and recognize when vegetables were harvested during stressful weather conditions based solely on taste profiles. Restaurant dining becomes psychological torture when supertasters can taste the cook's emotional state reflected in sauce preparation. They detect stress hormones in dishes prepared during busy kitchen periods, identify when ingredients were stored improperly, and taste the difference between meals prepared with care versus meals assembled with indifference. Chefs unknowingly broadcast their moods through subtle changes in seasoning techniques that only supertasters can decode through enhanced taste receptor sensitivity. These people become the most annoying dinner guests because they cannot help critiquing molecular structures in every dish. They comment on the pH balance in salad dressings, identify artificial preservatives in processed foods, and explain why certain flavor combinations create unpleasant chemical interactions on their hyperactive taste buds. Friends invite them to restaurants, then watch them analyze meals like forensic scientists examining crime scenes through flavor evidence. The TAS2R38 gene specifically controls sensitivity to bitter compounds, including naturally occurring chemicals in vegetables that normal humans barely notice. Supertasters can find vegetables like broccoli intensely bitter per standardized taste tests. Coffee becomes almost undrinkable without extensive modification because they taste bitter alkaloids at concentrations that overwhelm their genetic predisposition toward bitter compound detection. Their genetic variants create taste experiences so intense that many supertasters develop restrictive eating patterns to avoid sensory overload. They often avoid certain healthy foods because bitterness is overwhelming, which has been correlated with TAS-TOR38 genotype in dietary studies. Dark chocolate tastes like concentrated bitterness, vegetables taste like plant defense chemicals, and aged cheeses taste like bacterial fermentation processes gone wrong. Testing for supertaster status involves exposing individuals to PROP or PTC test strips that contain bitter compounds only detectable by people with enhanced TAS-TOR38 gene function. Normal humans taste nothing or mild bitterness, while supertasters experience intense, unpleasant flavors that confirm their genetic mutations. The University of Pennsylvania confirmed in 2023 that at-home PROP tests accurately identify supertaster status, making genetic testing accessible through simple taste experiments. Supertasters often exhibit enhanced sensitivity in other sensory areas beyond just taste detection. Research from the Monal Chemical Senses Center found that these individuals experience stronger reactions to oral pain from spicy foods and sometimes demonstrate heightened smell sensitivity. Their sensory systems operate at amplified settings that affect multiple forms of chemical detection, creating individuals who experience the world through enhanced sensory channels.